Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith. This is day 185, so let's get started. We're covering today actually questions 132 and 133 of the Secunda Secundae, so this day should actually come before the last one. That's on me. But today we're covering Vainglory and Pusillanimity. The translation that I always use in these podcasts is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code SUMMA10. And so here we go. Article 1, whether the desire of glory is a sin. Passions take a moral character insofar as they are somehow voluntary, and whether they are in line with right reason or out of line with right reason. And the desire for glory in itself cannot be evil, since our Lord taught, "If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there shall my servant be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him." We are to seek to honor from the Father, and to be honored by the Father is to be glorified in the sight of God and man. However, this term glory, as to its precise meaning, merits a brief digression. What is glory? It denotes a kind of visibility. Clarity is the word Aquinas uses, being seen in a good way. And a word glory denotes being seen clearly as good and beautiful. This is how the world glorifies God. It makes his invisible goodness and beauty visible through these good and beautiful, visible things. Now, again, as our Lord taught, the desire to be glorified cannot be evil in itself, since Jesus chastised the Pharisees precisely for not seeking the glory that comes from God. That's in John chapter 5. But there is such a thing as vain or empty glory, which is sinful. Seeking empty or false glory is evil because it is contrary to reason. Right reason calls us to seek God's glory and our glory in God as God's creatures. To the contrary, glory is vain when, first of all, one attempts to elicit glory through perishable, inconsequential things, like being glorified as a video gamer or a musician. Second, glory is vain if it's sought from another whose judgment is flawed, namely all human beings. Third, glory is vain, as Aquinas says, when one does not refer the desire of his own glory to a due end, such as God's honor or the spiritual welfare of his neighbor. In each of these scenarios, the desired glory will be false or misplaced, and therefore sinful is contrary to right reason. Article 2, whether vainglory is opposed to magnanimity. In a sentence from Aquinas, magnanimity is about honor. It follows that it also is about glory, seeing that as a man uses honor moderately, so too does he use glory in moderation. Wherefore, inordinate desire of glory is directly opposed to magnanimity. Our Lord taught us, "Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." So consider the Venerable Fulton-Sheen. He was manifestly recognized, seen, respected, and honored by many, thus, in a sense, glorified. Now, he would have likely known this would be the result of his public preaching, and if he pursued it not in an empty way, but for God's resulting glory and the salvation of his neighbor, then it would not have been evil. Yet, we should ever keep in mind the danger of desiring glory and honor, keeping it directed to our ultimate goal, which is heaven and happiness, lest it enslave us, bending our heart and our actions. As Cicero warns in this article, we should beware of the desire for glory, since it enslaves the mind, which a magnanimous man should ever strive to keep untrammeled or to keep free. Article 3, whether vainglory is a capital vice. Capital vices, as we have learned, because of the uniquely desired end in question, like money or physical pleasure or revenge, can then cause other vices to easily crop up around them in the disordered attainment of this good in question. Like we saw with the capital vice of covetousness, a disordered desire for money, which can easily then beget fraud, treachery, perjury, violence, etc. So too here we have a good, honor, which, when loved inordinately through the vice of vainglory, can lead to many other vices ordered to procuring honor, which we will get into in our next article. But responding to this article as to why vainglory is a capital vice, St. Thomas writes, "Now among the goods that are the means whereby man acquires honor, glory seems to be the most conducive to that effect, inasmuch as it denotes the manifestation of a man's goodness, since good is naturally loved and honored by all. And since many vices arise from the inordinate desire thereof, it follows that vainglory is a capital vice." And then before moving on to our next article, it's important to denote the distinction between vainglory and pride. Pride is defined here as the inordinate desire of excellence, which honestly can apply to any sin whatsoever. When a man desires food or money or revenge inordinately, he is at the same time desiring some good perfection, excellence to come to him, which he shouldn't desire. This is why pride is not a capital vice, but the cause of all vice, of all sin. Vainglory, on the other hand, is the disordered desire for the good perfection, excellence of honor and glory specifically. Article 4, whether the daughters of vainglory are suitably reckoned to be disobedience, boastfulness, hypocrisy, contention, obstinacy, discord, and love of novelties. All right, so let's go ahead and break those down. And again, these are the vices assisting vainglory or aimed at the same end as vainglory, which is empty honor and glory, which can be procured firstly indirectly by words via the vice of boastfulness, next by deeds eliciting astonishment, which if done honestly is termed love of novelties. If conducted falsely or only apparently is called hypocrisy. A man may then procure glory indirectly by demonstrating oneself superior to others. First, by clinging to one's own opinion or position in the mind, which is called obstinacy. Then in regard to the will, by not agreeing with others or giving up their own choice or preference, which is called discord. In their words, by seeking to procure honor through superiority in discussion, which is called contention. Lastly, a man may seek to manifest superiority against their superiors by deed, which is the vice of disobedience. And thus we have suitably named as daughter sins of vainglory, boastfulness, love of novelties, hypocrisy, obstinacy, discord, contention, and disobedience. Now we move to question 133 on Pusillanimity, of which we have two articles. Article 1, whether Pusillanimity is a sin. In a sentence, St. Thomas says, just as presumption makes a man exceed what is proportionate to his power by striving to do more than he can, so Pusillanimity makes a man fall short of what is proportionate to his power by refusing to tend to that which is commensurate thereto. This is a deficiency in regard to the magnanimous man. The magnanimous man pursues excellence as he is capable and does not fall short of what he knows he can do and he ought to do through a smallness of soul, which is this vice, Pusillanimity. And what could be the cause of such a sin? Well, one reason might be pride. As Aquinas teaches, Pusillanimity may in some way be the result of pride, when, to wit, a man clings too much to his own opinion, whereby he thinks himself incompetent for those things for which he is competent. Hence it is written in Proverbs, the sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that speak sentences. Article 2, our last article, whether Pusillanimity is opposed to magnanimity. In brief, St. Thomas teaches, Pusillanimity and magnanimity differ as greatness and littleness of soul, as their names denote. Now great and little are opposites, therefore Pusillanimity is opposed to magnanimity. So to recap, we have Pusillanimity, which is the vice directly contrary to magnanimity, smallness of soul instead of greatness of soul. We also have presumption, which is the excess of the mean of magnanimity. Also, we have ambition, which desires honors itself inordinately, and then vainglory, which desires empty or false glory. And with that, we come to the close of another episode. We have just finished covering questions 132 and 133. Of the secundae of vainglory and of Pusillanimity. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.